What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the YouTube video. My name is Asher and I'm going to be your FIFO guide today, and this is going to be the 5-year exit plan for FIFO. Now, FIFO is a great opportunity. It's a great opportunity to get ahead in life. It's what I use to get ahead in life. So it is also super important though to have an exit plan. You shouldn't be going into FIFO without some sort of exit plan or some sort of time frame or timeline of when you want to take a step out. Now, a lot of people talk about the hardest part about getting into FIFO, which yes, it can be very difficult, but also the hardest part, again, is actually getting out of FIFO and having an actual plan so that you can leave FIFO and, not waste the time that you were there. Because FIFO is a sacrifice. FIFO is a long time away from family. It's hard work. You wouldn't want to do 5 to 10 years there and all of that just be gone or wasted. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. Now, a bit about me, guys. I started in a FIFO role in Perth. My goal was I wanted to stay there for about 3 to 5 years. That was my goal. I wanted to buy multiple investment properties. I bought my first house at 21 years old, and I was planning on keeping on going, but I eventually got into sales and I got out of FIFO. But I also saw so many people that were out there, so many boys that were older than me, in their 20s, 30s, sometimes even their 60s or 70s, and they were still working FIFO, and that honestly scared the shit out of me, and I didn't want to end up like that, so I got into sales to get out. Now, let's talk about the FIFO 5-year plan. This is a very step-by-step plan that you guys can follow. It's very quite easy to follow, but it can be quite difficult because you do have to save your money, and I know as a FIFO worker, as someone that used to do it, it's hard to come back from site and not spend 50% of your money, because a lot of people don't realize this, but when you come back, say you're a week off or 2 weeks off, there's nothing to do. You're just at home. There's nothing to do other than spend money. So you just get bored, right? And if you don't have that discipline, if you don't have that, that sort of that drive to just hold your money, sometimes it can just slip right out of your hands. So yeah. So what is the FIFO 5-year plan? Now, it's basically in the name. I say that five years in FIFO is the sweet spot to be out there to, get your experience, get your, understand the whole industry, sometimes even be like, yeah, this is enough for me. After 5 years, you will find that if you've got a good exit plan, 5 years will be perfect. I saw boys that were out there for, 10 to, 15, sometimes even 20 years, sometimes even more. And they didn't enjoy the job anymore. They were just purely out there to pay their debts and, the golden handcuffs, like you've called, and that's what I don't want you guys to go through, okay? Because the golden handcuffs is where FIFO people, when you work in FIFO, you don't like it. And not a lot of people also talk about this, is the suicide rates in FIFO. A lot of that is caused from golden handcuffs, which is, being in debt, not being able to pay the money back, or being in so much debt that you can't leave FIFO because you can't find a job that's going to pay you as much as your FIFO gig. And they're away from their family, they're away from, they're watching their kids grow up through a FaceTime call that they have to make back home. They're stuck out there, and that is what I don't want you guys to go through, and that's what, when you work out in FIFO, you will see. So this is why the 5-year plan is so crucial to going to FIFO, experiencing it, but eventually getting out. So obviously in FIFO, you're going to be earning a lot of money. You're going to be earning between 100 to 150, maybe even up to $200,000 a year, depending on what role you're doing. So already there, I know for me, I had no experience when I went in, and I started and I was on about $110 to $120,000 a year. So pretty decent. Now, the first thing that you should be really focusing on is focusing on assets. So assets like real estate, that's a massive one, especially here in Australia. Even, stocks, and building up that sort of portfolio. All of that stuff is going to benefit you in the future and is a part of the 5-year plan. So if you go in and you have a written plan that you want to buy 5 properties in 5 years, that is a really good plan. That is probably a very concrete plan and exit plan to have, because eventually those houses are going to generate you income, are going to generate you rental income, which you will be able to live off. You might not be able to live off them in the first 5 years, but eventually you've used that FIFO money to buy those properties, and you're able to have them there as cash flowing assets. Now, this is the main thing. Assets are everything. Cash flow is everything. The things that you want to stay away from, please stay away from this. is the financing of the new cars, the jet skis, and the Mercedes. All of this is fun and games, and it's good to have, but it's going to put you in a very, very bad hole. Interest rates, loans, credit cards, all of these things is what the golden handcuffs get you at. So please, when you go into FIFO, I know those shiny objects are so shiny and they're nice, but you don't want to go for them, all right? And in order for you to take off the high vis for good after doing a solid couple of years is assets that are going to give you cash flow. Now, real estate is obviously a massive one. I still recommend real estate because I've got real estate, and Australia is very, if you've got land, if you've got real estate, you're going to do well, right? Focus on properties that are near the beach, because at your income level, you're now in a high income bracket, okay? So now you can borrow more money, which means you can get a better property. For me, I grew up on the Sunshine Coast. I grew up in, Queensland, and I realized that property market was just too crazy. It was just way too inflated. I was like, there's no way I'm going to get in. There was a bunch of people from Melbourne that were coming up and buying all up the houses, and it was just a shit show. So what I did is I moved to Perth, and I started living in Perth and doing FIFO out of there. And that was also because I wanted to just have a change of scenery, but also because I knew that real estate would be cheaper over there and it would be better. Then about a year or two later, I bought my first house about 500 meters from the beach for about $400,000. Okay, normally in the Sunshine Coast, or Brisbane or Gold Coast, a house like that would cost me $1 million, maybe 1.5 million. So this is the best thing. So that's what I would recommend. If you can get to Perth, if you can live in Perth, if you're already in Perth, that's great. But Perth right now has the best and most affordable places in really Australia that are close to the beach, because that's a big thing for me. I like to live near the beach. So now, what are some things that you can do that's going to really determine and really make it more easier for you to hit this 5-year plan or 5 to 10-year plan? First is obviously saving your money. You want to save your money into a bank account which you can't touch, which isn't accessible on your phone. So if you're on a night out, or if you're up on, hitting the pokies with the boys, you can't access that money. That is a secret deposit. Okay, you have to only go into the bank or something to release that money. So you just want to put in like as much as possible, 50 to 60, even 70% of your pay into that bank. And over time, if you just keep doing that consistently, you set an alarm every time you get paid, you put it in there, and you pay for you live below your means. You pay your bills, you pay, your rent, because you got to pay rent when you're away. You pay your food and all that kind of stuff. You stay away from the shiny object syndrome, the cars, the boats, jet skis, and you just stack cash. Stacking cash is what you should be using FIFO for, just to stack cash. And over time, and after a year, after 2 years, after a year, you're going to be able to have a house deposit there ready. So then you buy your first house, boom. Now, once you've got that, you can't just stop saving. You have to keep on saving. You have to keep on putting money away. You have to keep on living below your means after you got that house, even go back to zero, because you want to go for 5 houses, 4 to 5 after the 5-year period. So once you've got that, it's basically just repeat, and then you can choose either to live in that first house, which I probably wouldn't recommend, and I'll tell you why. Firstly, because let's say your mortgage is $3,000 a month. That's a fair bit. But if you're only home for, 1 or 1.5 weeks of the month, it's not really worth it. You know what I mean? It's better to pay rent in a share house where you're paying $200 to $300 a week, and then have someone else rent your house out and pay the mortgage for you. So, because you're not even going to be in your house. It'd be nice to have, your own house, but you're not even going to be there. Now, also this idea that, you have to live in a house for 6 months before you rent it. No, it's not real. So, your first house, get that under your belt, and then you want to go and start for your second. Now, I know that you want the shiny object. I know that you want the shiny things. I know you want the jet skis. I know you want them. And I'll show you how to get them in just a second. So the best thing to do is, instead of paying for these shiny objects in cash or in, with a credit card or with a loan, that is not the smart way to do it. You're better off putting cash into a, an asset that's going to bring you more cash flow or grow in value. And then as it's grown in value, let's say the house has gone up in value, which it will, then you can pull money from that to then pay for the car or the jet ski or whatever toys that you want. Okay, so this is a way to use money that has grown from the assets, and also who's paying that off? The renters. Okay, so instead of using using your own cash, use cash or use equity from your assets. All right. So, and obviously real estate is a solid asset. It's a thing that's not going to blow away. It's a thing that's always going to be here. And you can, it's a roof over your head. Everyone needs a roof over your head. Everyone needs a house. And in a housing crisis, in an immigration crisis, in a cost of living crisis, it is something that will always be doing well. So real estate's really good. Assets like stocks, crypto, if you're into that, that's really good as well. And it's also good to diversify yourself. But the main thing is real estate, because it's so concrete. If you can go for a house every single year for 5 years, that is going to be the main thing that's going to help you get out eventually. And that's what you should be using FIFO for. Now, how did I get out of FIFO and step away? So after doing top FIFO for 2.5 years, I bought my first house and I was going for my second one. And I realized, look, FIFO is really good, the money's really good, but I know that I can be earning more. I know that I can be doing better. I know that I want to be making more. So, and I looked around at all these people that were making money online, so to speak, and on my For You page, were making more money than me, but they weren't out in FIFO. So even though I was told, and you probably were told as well, because you're watching this video, that FIFO is the best job and the most highest paying job in Australia, but there's other people that are making more money than FIFO workers, right? Now, what I did to make more money than a FIFO worker is I did sales. I did specifically remote sales, and I started selling expensive digital products for other businesses. So essentially just closing deals for businesses and taking a cut. Now, these are any business in the space from, business like insurance, solar, business growth, anything, okay? They're selling a product or service, whatever it may be. They employ me or they freelance me, and I close the deals for them. I can do it from anywhere, wherever, and there's no cap to the amount of money that I can earn. And the average income for a remote closer is between $10,000 to $30,000 a month. So you can already see that the average is higher than a FIFO worker, okay? Now, if you guys are interested in that, if you want that as an exit plan or a possible route for income, there is a link in the description to get started with that, the same way that I did, and to have a full step-by-step guide and basically a roadmap to your first 10 to 15K per month completely online. So go check that out. And if you have any questions, then let me know in the comments. But the main thing, guys, is I do want to say, I still recommend FIFO, 100%. FIFO is what got me my first house. It's what got me, out of earning regular wages and, making minimum wage at a tradie job. But also it opened my eyes. It opened up my eyes to what's really going on. The fact that a lot of people are making $150,000 to $200,000 a year and they're living week to week. There is something wrong. And if you don't go into FIFO without a plan, without a solid exit plan, you will be in FIFO forever. So I hope that was of value. I hope you guys, that helps you guys with getting into FIFO and understanding what you need to do. If you guys have any questions whatsoever, please send me a DM on my TikTok. It's the Asher Shaw. And if you have any questions at all, then just leave them in the comment section. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to like and subscribe, guys. And I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks heaps. Cheers.